Yeah. My name is George Antonio. I'm going to be the chair for this session today. Thank you for coming. We have several presenters. Each presentation is about 20 minutes or so, and 5 minutes for questions. So let's make this interactive. We start with the first one. Is a paper called Botas, a human-centered natural language interface for Linux system management and multi-distribution software. And the authors are Jose Ramon and Ricardo Rodriguez, and the presenter will be Jose.
Thank you so much. Hello everyone. Thank you for coming and being here. My name is Jose Ramon Aragón Toledo. I'm a student from the Universidad Tecnológica de la Mixteca in Oaxaca, Mexico. Today, I'm going to present you a voice interface for managing Linux systems with multi-distribution support. In the first part of this presentation, I'm going to talk to you about the problem with the accessibility gap with the command line interface on Linux, and what is Botas, the solution I propose, and what is human-centered AI, that is the principles that is based on the development process of this software. And in the second part of the presentation, I'm going to talk about the architecture and the evidence of the work that I've done since the camera ready. First of all, the Linux is one of the operating systems that runs on 90% of the cloud infrastructure, on 96% of the top 1 million web servers, and 100% of the supercomputers in the world. But the command line interface is so old. Novice people spend between 8 to 15 minutes building one basic command, and the syntax is not clear for the new people. There's tools with AI that can suggest a command, but it cannot execute it or validate its safety. And there's another barrier. More than 500 million Spanish speakers are underserved by English-only interfaces. In Latin America, language plus cost barriers blocks adoption of this system of operatives. And Scott Jensen, in 2024, said in his article, The Future of Desktop UX, Breaking the Cycle of Stagnation, he said that the gap is not a technical limit, but a design capitulation. He worked on Apple in 1988, developing the human interface guidelines, and later he was the first UI UX designer of Google Mobile. So I propose Botas. What is Botas? Botas is a voice assistant that turns spoken natural language requests in Spanish into validated executable Linux commands with a safety check and an educational explanation for every command. It was built on human-centered AI, Ben Snyderman, who is founding director of Maryland's HCI Lab and the author who coined the term of direct manipulation. He said that his central move was automation and human control is not trade-off, but two different independent axes. And there's where I want to aim that they are both important, and this is Botas. It is an LLM automating aggressively, and it has a deterministic layer to keep the human in control of the operating system. And it was developed with 5 design commitments. The first one is amplify the user radar, not replace it. The second commitment is transparency, that the user always know what command is going to be used and how it's going to be used and why. The third commitment is the user control. Every command that is suggested by the LLM or the local intent detector, I'm going to talk about that later, every command suggested by the software is going to be pre-confirmed or confirmed by the user if he wanted to be executed. And next to this commitment, there's the safety layer, the fourth commitment, that is a deterministic danger detection for potential dangerous commands for your data, not Windows. And the fifth commitment is the education. It's about to build competence and teach the user how to elaborate these commands by himself and not depending on an LLM tool for doing it. Here's a diagram of the architecture, and in the user interface, the user pushes a button and speaks his request to the computer, and Whisper translates that speech into text. In that moment, if the local intent detector can matches the words that is saying in the request, it results without calling or escalating the request to an LLM. If it is not detected by the local intent, it escalates the request to the command parser. It is just impulsed by ChatGPT or GPT-4o, or it could be used with DeepSeek R1. And then it goes to the safety validator and the execution part. But the distro detector actually knows if you're using Arch Linux, Fedora, or algún Debian derivative from Linux. So the pipeline of the using the software is first you can use a wake word like using a Siri or Alexa. It works with Botas. Botas is the wake word, and then you request it transcribe it with Whisper to text, and then parse it with the local local intent detector or escalate it to LLM, and then it give us an object in format JSON who can be validated and then executed with the spoken feedback. This is the true brains I talked to you about, the local intent detector that matches the transcribed request against Spanish regions like time, memory, disks, processes, and ports. This is one of the 4 layers that are going to take part on the architecture of the system. It returns the same JSON structure that GPT would do, but without generating cost and saving time. And the same for the LLM. It will send us back an action. It is processed by the software, like create file, search, or clarify that request, and in case the request is not clear or is less of context. And the parameters that it is in the JSON object are like the text-to-speech response that is going to be heard on the computer, and if it requires confirmation or safety or dangerous scenario. It is aware of the working distro, and then it goes to the safety validator that it is a third layer. It doesn't execute the command until it goes to the safety validator and then execute it. A third brain is called the task banner. It sits between the local detector and the LLM parser in the same pipeline. It's just one more step when the LLM gives to the software a correct command and it is useful, the software does reverse engineer to create a template from the request. It locates which words map to which parameters, a folder name or a search term, weighted by TF-IDF algorithm, and then when Vosk recognizes same words that are used in a future request, it reuse a template that has been learned before using causing similarity versus every stored pattern registered in the pattern stack or in the patterns. If the similarity is above a 60% threshold, the same JSON action at the LLM will be reconstructed without escalating to the LLM. It makes you to personalize your phrasing over time. By default, it is an option that is off, but it's possible. You can turn it on, and you can erase that your database of patterns if it gets corrupted or something like that. If the pattern fails twice, it goes to quarantine to maintain independence from the task learner. The safety layer is still running on every reconstructed comment. And there's the deterministic safety layer that analyzes every comment before being executed using regex and heuristics. It makes the answer given by the LLM consistent and editable, independent of the model variability. And it is classified on 4 dangerous categories that could be here. There are comments that could be destructive, like the one in the parentheses. The privilege escalation, like sudo, system modifications, or permission lockouts, like chmod. When it's detected a dangerous comment, it raises a spoken warning and a confirmation dialog with risk explanation. Yeah, that's what it does. Here you have an example of the confirmation dialog when it says the action that the user wants to do, that is list content of a folder, where it's going to do that in the desktop, and cancel if you don't want the action, or execute it. This is a very basic request, but then could be move a whole system of folders, or rename a file that is important. It could be useful having a safety layer like this. And this is the explanation of the command given by the LLM. And here is a description of what is going to do that command. Here is the command written in green, and in blue are the parameters and the command using and explaining it, for the user know how to elaborate the command by himself and not depend on the LLM or the software. On the voice pipeline, like I said before, the offline word is Botas, and it is when you have the attention mode on. It is I was listening but not escalating to any server. The recording is only local, and when it hears the word, opens a 30-second attention window. It could vary depending on how you want it, and then makes the translation to whisper, the same pipeline I have described before. Okay, there's a forest state indicator. I wanted to show you the end of the presentation, where it is 4 colors. In gray is a state of idle, in green is listening, red is recording, and orange is processing. The user always knows whether the microphone is live and when Botas is taking a moment processing the request. And that's privacy by design. The results reported in the paper were about 200 tasks that I run into a script, having the expected command given by the LLM and the actual command given by the LLM. So this command runs to the parser, local parser, for having for checking if the command given by the LLM was expected. And the numbers that we get from here was the 89% of command accuracy, 100% of danger detection, 43 tasks were detected as dangerous or potentially dangerous, and is 9 times faster than searching for the command on web pages. I also did pilot study with 3 users, and the reviewer says it was a really small group. I really know that. And well, I want to tell you what I did next from the camera ready. I did 3 important things. One of them was running a 250 task evaluation, comparing DeepSeek R1 versus GPT-4o. The second task I did was the second usability round with 14 users following the ISO rule 9241. And the third thing I did was taking the reviewers and the users' feedback to implement the fixes that they told me, and validate that the multi-distribution is going well. Okay, there are the results of the reproducible Perl harness that run the full 250 task dataset through the real parser. So answering to the reviewers, if it was manual or automated, it is automated 100%, and it could be reproducible. And the categories of the tasks that I measured the both models were web searches, app opening, process control, system information, networking, permissions, file management, and project creation. Project creation being the one who was the weakest rating, because the system, the software, couldn't alternate between create project or create manual folders, create folders. Yeah, I have 127 tasks over there because the other 123 wasn't implemented by me to be resolved by Botas directly in the command line, but that's honest. Botas never invents a command, never do that. And yeah, 505 destructive or delete operations were asked for confirmation, 0 safety false negative, and 28 stage chaining of materialized. And what was the results that we get from the comparison between GPT-4o or DeepSeek R1 was the DeepSeek give us most accurate comments for the result expected than GPT-4, but GPT give us the opportunity to clarify it most than DeepSeek R1. So if you want to clarify that the request you needed is better using GPT than DeepSeek, but DeepSeek was more efficient or effectively for generating the command. So this is why I say that model choice is not an accuracy number, it is a design lever giving autonomy versus caution with GPT. And from the second usability round, with the number of users incremented significantly. There were 14 novice participants plus 1 pilot excluded. Within subject, each one did 3 tasks by using the graphic user interface and then by voice. Between subject model, each one, 7 users used DeepSeek R1 and other 7 used GPT. The metrics of the usability test were the ISO 9241, and the 3 tasks that I tested on the users were create a folder tree with 6 subjects, subfolders inside of a semester folder, find a PDF into downloads, and move it to one of these created folders in the task 1, and for the task 3 was doing a web search. It was made at the UTM's usability lab under informed consent, and I always state what they have to do, but I didn't tell them how to do it. And the effectiveness obtained from there was that the graphic user interface was 100% because, well, everyone who was a user already knows graphic interface, but on the first encounter, it says that 83% was preferred using, 83% of the tasks were completed successfully in the voice mode, using the voice assistant. So, and we did at the final of the usability testings an overall score rating, and we got 8.2 from 10. And on a scale of Likert, we got 4.5 from 5, rating 1 like as a less easy to learn, and 5 to more easy or much better easy to learn. And the naturalness of the responses from the software were rated on 3.4 for the response of generated by the LLM. It was the weakest score that we get. So with the 85% of the 14 students or users, they said that they would use Botas again. And the BOS was the preferred modality for the repetitive task, like the task 1 that was create 6 folders, and yeah, that's about the usability testings. And from the feedback that the reviewers and the users give me, I implemented fixes, like if the 89% of the task evaluated was manual or automated, it was completely automated with a script, but it was now 250 tasks. Same that I have said before. Yeah, the user says that there were excess or too obvious confirmations, like creating files or creating folders, that it isn't needed a confirmation because didn't represent a danger or potentially danger to the user. So I moved that log to the advanced configuration. If the user needs the confirmations for every thing that he is going to create, he can turn it out on the configuration. In the task 1, in the second round of usability testings, they tried to create the whole file system of file folders in one request. In the first usability testing, sorry, I missed that. In the second one, I already fixed that, so they could ask the whole system on folder organization in one request. Then I tested the multi-distribution support. I tried running on virtual machines and computers with my friends of the university. And the best trial that I get, or test that I get, was on Fedora 44, because the installer that is online actually run fully unattended, and I didn't have to do anything, and the application gets installed automatically, just like in Ubuntu and on Kali Linux. But in Kali Linux, I have a little problem because the net wasn't configured for downloading the packages needed. So the honest limitations about this software. When it's your first contact with the application, your voice could be slower and less because you are elaborating your request to ask it for the software. There wasn't an heterogeneous sample of the users. That's another limitation. I need to test the task, more tasks on each of family of Linux that I tested, the installation of the software. And for future work, I planned that there could be the weakest measure on the 250 tasks, where the project creation, so like is creating many files and many folders, it is going to make plans for creating it in an order, in a sequence. And the second thing that I planned is a continuous conversation loop that saying Botas once, you can keep talking with the assistant and not gotta say it again. So you can still talking with the assistant. And another thing that I want to do is using DeepSeek R1, but using Olama or LLM Studio for running DeepSeek R1 on local machines and not exposing your data to external servers. And this is the diagram that I'm planning for the future work, the planner, where you give your request, the planner decomposes your request and elaborates a plan. If you approve it, then the software does the task that were planned, and then compares the user if it was the result that it was expecting. If not, it plans again. If it is the result that was expected by the user, does an spoken summary. Every step still passes the same deterministic safety validator, and the plan is shown before anything runs. For the conclusions of this work, Botas shows that LLMs can democratize powerful command line tools when paired with a deterministic society layer, educational feedback, and attention to underserved communities. 89 accuracy for the command generated, 100% danger detection, and 9 times faster than the looking for the commands on web pages. The second round of usability testing gives us an 8.2 of 10 score of overall score, a high learnability. In the open challenge is increase the naturalness of the responses. The reviewer and user feedbacks is already implemented. The portability is validated on 4 distro families. This lands on the principles that AI for the progress of society say to us, that was democratization. The command line interface is powered, but without its syntax, as a free software. It could be inclusive and accessible, voice first and Spanish native on modest hardware, and its sustainability, around 30% of requests never reach the cloud, so the learned patterns cost 0 LLM calls. So for ending this, the goal is not to make technology simpler, but more accessible, and in the process more human. Thank you.
Questions?
No, yeah.
Good.
Questions?
I have two questions. The first one is, do you think that it is important to have a personal recognition? Because, for example, I don't want that any person modify my computer. And another question it is, can I use this software in, for example, WSL from Windows, for example?
Yeah, it is. It can be used in Windows, but the graphic dependencies like GTK3 with Perl is not available, or well, I haven't tried yet. I installed it on WLS on Windows, but the graphics didn't load well.
Yeah.
But probably can get fixed.
Yeah.
And for the security, in case of other person using your PC and speaking with you, I already thought about that case, but haven't implemented any solution for covering this situation. What I have think is about the pitch of the voice and like a password, but a sentence.
Thank you so much.
Go ahead. Yeah, sorry.
I know you mentioned your future work on tutorials. I know this would be like a really interesting idea for like older populations, and I'm thinking about like mobility issues that they have. So, in what ways? My question is, like how would the tutorials work for those older populations if they have mobility issues, if they're stuck at home, for example?
How the tutorials works with.
Well, how would Botas be used for like older populations? Because it might not be used with like technology, it might have mobility restrictions.
Yeah, well, if you have restrictions like that, if you cannot see, for example, you suffer reduced visibility, it can help you to manipulate your computer without vision, or if you got mobility problems, is going to help you too. And well, I give you this QR, you can go to the software page, and it gives you an activation code for testing it on your own computer. That's all.
Do you have a demo for us? Or no?
Yeah, of course.
That's why you put your computer there.
Yeah, exactly. I'm sorry. Botas, enlista todos los archivos que se encuentren en el escritorio.
Can you translate for non-Spanish speakers?
Yeah, I asked to Botas to list the whole files that were on the desktop.
Okay.
But is this running now or is waiting to internet connection? Just let's give it a second. Yeah, I'm not sure. Probably I should give it more time, but just wait 1 second. I'm gonna use it with the attention mode activated. Botas. Lista todos los archivos que se encuentren en el escritorio. And there's the list of the files that are on the desktop. And you can arrange it from A to C or C to A, kind of file or the weight of the file. And if you want to see hidden files, it's available too. You can open it directly on a external editor of text, or edit it right on the same software. You can edit it here. And that's the software.
All right, good job. Thank you very much. All right, can we put this back?
Yeah.
Thank you. All right, so it's